At 1:28 in the morning on June 28, 1983, a 100-foot section of Interstate 95 dropped into the Mianus River in Greenwich, Connecticut. There was no earthquake, no explosion, no warning of any kind. The highway was simply there one moment and gone the next, a clean gap in the dark where pavement used to be. 2 cars and a tractor-trailer drove straight off the edge before anyone could stop them. They fell more than 70 feet into the shallow river below. 3 people died on impact. 3 more were pulled from the wreckage, alive with injuries that would last the rest of their lives. Investigators found the cause weeks later. The pin and hanger connections that held the bridge span in place had been corroding for years. Road salt, runoff, decades of vibration from 1 million passing trucks had eaten through the steel one invisible layer at a time until nothing was left to hold. The bridge had been inspected. It had not been flagged. And on a warm summer night with nothing unusual about the traffic and nothing unusual about the weather, the steel let go and the road fell away, and 3 people who were simply driving home learned in the last seconds of their lives that the ground beneath their tires had never been as solid as it looked. That collapse was national news for a week. Then the bridge was rebuilt, and the traffic came back, and the country moved on. But the bridge is not the real story of Interstate 95. The bridge was a single failure on a single night. What this highway does to people every other night, every morning, every rush hour and holiday weekend, and long dark stretch between cities is something so steady and so ordinary that most of the country has stopped counting. And the count is staggering. Hold on to what I'm about to tell you, because the number does not fit inside the word accident. Interstate 95 runs nearly 2,000 miles from Houlton, Maine, on the Canadian border to Miami, Florida, at the southern tip of the continent. It passes through 15 states and the District of Columbia. It threads through more major metropolitan areas than any other highway in America. Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Jacksonville, Miami. It is the spine of the eastern seaboard, the single busiest north-south corridor in the country, and on some sections near New York and Washington, it carries more than 300,000 vehicles a day across infrastructure that was poured when Eisenhower was still in the White House. Since the first sections opened in the late 1950s, this highway has been in continuous operation for more than 60 years. In that time, by the most conservative reading of federal crash data, the number of Americans killed on this single road is believed to exceed the American death toll of the Revolutionary War. It exceeds the War of 1812. It exceeds the Mexican-American War. A single highway through a single country across a single lifetime has produced more dead than battlefields with their own monuments in Washington. And no one built a monument for Interstate 95. There is no wall with names on it. There is no ceremony, no annual remembrance, no moment of silence on the anniversary of the worst year. The dead on this highway accumulate year after year, folded into a national traffic fatality number so large that no single road's contribution ever stands out enough to shock anyone into stopping. A fatal crash on I-95 is not news, it is weather. Something that happened this morning, the way it happened yesterday morning, and will happen again tomorrow. And because it never stops, it never starts to feel like an emergency. That is the first trap this road sets. Not danger, routine. To understand why Interstate 95 kills the way it does, You have to understand how it was born and what was sacrificed to build it. In 1956, President Dwight Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act, the largest public works project in the history of the world at that time. The act authorized the construction of over 40,000 miles of interstate highway, and the road that would become I-95 was near the top of the list because the need was obvious. The eastern seaboard was already the most densely populated corridor in the country, and the roads connecting its cities were a patchwork of two-lane state highways, congested toll roads, and country routes that had barely changed since the automobile was new. The engineers who designed I-95 faced a problem no one had solved at this scale. They had to thread a high-speed, limited-access highway through the oldest, most crowded, most politically complicated corridor in America. They could not go around the cities. They had to go through them. They had to cross rivers that already had bridges. They had to cut through neighborhoods that did not want to be cut through and squeeze between railroad yards and waterfronts and industrial zones that left no room for the wide medians and gentle curves. The interstate system was supposed to have, so they made compromises. They built sections with shorter merge lanes than the rest of the system. They used tighter curves and steeper grades because the geography gave them no choice. They ran the road on elevated structures through downtowns where it would have been too expensive to tunnel and too destructive to build at grade. In Connecticut alone, the highway passes through corridors so narrow and so old that some of the original bridges were designed to carry traffic volumes from the 1950s and have been carrying 10 times that number ever since. Those compromises are still in the road. They are under your tires right now. 60 years later, the on-ramps in Bridgeport are still too short. The curves through Providence are still too tight. The merge points in northern New Jersey still ask a driver to accelerate from 35 to 65 in the space of a few car lengths, while a wall of freight trucks bears down in the right lane at full speed. Every one of those design choices was a reasonable decision in 1960. Every one of them is a trap in a world that now pushes 300,000 vehicles a day through a corridor that was built for a fraction of that. Remember the compromises. You are going to see what they cost. Now zoom in, because I-95 does not kill evenly along its length. It has a stretch that stands apart from the rest, the way a wound stands apart from a bruise, and it is not where most people would guess. The deadliest sustained corridor on Interstate 95, the one that appears again and again when researchers rank the most dangerous highway segments in America, runs through South Florida. Roughly 50 miles of road from the Golden Glades interchange in northern Miami-Dade County, north through Broward County and Fort Lauderdale, and up into the southern edge of Palm Beach County. In federal crash data, this corridor regularly produces more fatal crashes per mile than almost any other urban interstate segment in the country. And the reasons it kills are not the reasons you would expect. This is not a remote stretch of road. There is no emptiness here, no desert monotony, no isolation to blame. This 50-mile corridor runs through one of the most densely populated regions in the southeastern United States. There are exits every mile or two. There are hospitals within range. There are police patrols and highway cameras and electronic message boards flashing speed warnings and crash alerts in real time. Everything that is supposed to make a highway safer exists here in abundance. And the road kills anyway, steadily, predictably, in numbers that would shut down any other public space in the country. Picture the drive, the way the people who die on it actually make it. You are heading north out of Miami on a Tuesday evening at 5:30. The road is 6 lanes in each direction, 12 lanes of traffic, and every one of them is occupied. The speed limit says 65. Nobody is doing 65. The left lane is running 85. The right lane is running 50 because someone is trying to exit and someone else is trying to merge at the same time, and neither one will yield. In the middle, a loaded semi is changing lanes without a signal, and a rental car from Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International is drifting across 3 lanes at once because the driver just realized their exit is on the right and they are on the left, and the GPS said now. This is the environment, not emptiness, but chaos. Not the slow hypnosis of a desert straight away, but the opposite. A wall of competing decisions made at speed by 200,000 strangers who do not know each other and do not trust each other, and are all trying to occupy the same concrete at the same time. And underneath all that chaos is the ingredient that makes it lethal: familiarity. Most of the people on this road are locals. They drive it 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year. They know which lanes move fastest. They know which exits back up. They know how to weave and merge and accelerate through gaps that a visiting driver would never attempt. And that knowledge, that comfort, that bone-deep certainty that they own this road is the thing that loosens every safety margin there is. A driver who knows a road stops respecting it. They stop leaving the cushion of space that absorbs the unexpected. They stop braking early because they have done this merge 1,000 times, and they know exactly how much room they need, and they are right about that. Right up until the one afternoon, the car in front of them brakes a half-second sooner than usual, and then there is no room left, and there is no time to make more. There is only physics deciding the rest. If you are finding this valuable, take a moment to subscribe. This channel goes deep on one deadly American place at a time. The real ground, the real people, every single week. Now stack the other ingredients on top of that familiarity. South Florida is home to one of the oldest driving populations in the country. Retirees who moved south for the weather and now share 6 lanes at 80 miles an hour with drivers half their age who treat the highway like a track. The speed differential alone is lethal. A car doing 55 in the center lane is not a slow driver. It is an obstacle to the car doing 85 100 yards behind it in the same lane. The closing speed between those two vehicles is 30 miles an hour. The speed of a residential street compressed into a few seconds of highway. On a road with no margin for error, that gap writes the crash report by itself. Then there is the weather, and this one does not work the way you think it does. South Florida does not get rain the way the rest of the country gets rain. It gets ambush. On a summer afternoon, the sky goes from clear to black in the time it takes to drive 10 miles. The rain comes down not in sheets, but in walls. Visibility drops to the length of a car hood. The road floods because the drainage was engineered for storms that were not this heavy or this sudden. And 300,000 drivers who were doing 80 in bright sunshine are now doing 80 in standing water because the cars in front did not slow down, and the cars behind will not let them. The first hard rain after a dry spell is the worst. Oil and rubber and grime that have been baking into the pavement for weeks lift off the surface and turn the road into something closer to ice. The locals know this. They drive through it anyway because they have done it before, and because they are late, and because the road has let them get away with it every other time. That is the pattern, Not recklessness exactly, calibrated risk. A driver shaving 2 seconds off a merge, a driver checking a phone at 70, a driver following too close because the car ahead is too slow and the lane to the left is full. Each one of those decisions is small and rational and survivable 1,000 times in a row. And on the 1,001st, the math changes by a fraction, and the small decision becomes the last one they ever make. The road does not punish you for the first 999. It waits. And the road is old. Hold the Mianus Bridge in your mind while I tell you this part. Across the entire I-95 corridor, hundreds of bridges and overpasses have been classified by federal inspectors as structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. Not condemned, not closed. Driven on every single day by millions of people who assume the concrete beneath them is as permanent as the ground. It is not. It is a maintained thing, and the maintenance is losing ground because the traffic that pounds it every day was never part of the original math. On June 11, 2023, a tanker truck hauling roughly 8,500 gallons of gasoline caught fire beneath an elevated section of I-95 in northeast Philadelphia. The flames reached the underside of the overpass, the support columns buckled in the heat, and the highway that carries more than 160,000 vehicles a day through that corridor collapsed onto the road below. The driver of the tanker was killed at the scene. The road above him, a piece of the most important highway on the East Coast, fell in minutes. The speed of the emergency repair became its own national news story, and it was treated as a triumph of engineering. But the fact that needed repairing did not change. A 50-year-old highway carrying loads it was never designed for, with fuel moving beneath it every hour of every day, had been brought down by a single fire. The road under your tires on I-95 is not permanent. It is a bet that the maintenance holds and the inspection catches and the truck underneath does not burn. Most of the time the bet pays off. That is not the same thing as safe. Now go north and add the one weapon the Florida stretch does not carry: ice. In the Northeast Corridor, where I-95 was built first and has aged the longest, winter turns the road into something the engineers in the 1950s never solved. Black ice on a bridge deck is invisible. A driver doing 60 on dry pavement crosses onto a bridge, and the coefficient of friction drops to almost nothing. And the car that was tracking perfectly is now a projectile answering to no one. On January 3, 2022, a winter storm hit Virginia and turned a 50-mile stretch of I-95 between Fredericksburg and Washington into a parking lot that lasted 27 hours. Hundreds of drivers were trapped on the highway overnight in freezing temperatures with dwindling fuel and no way off the road. Senator Tim Kaine was among them, stuck in his car for the better part of a day. No one died in that event, which was its own quiet miracle. But it stripped away something the public had always assumed about this road: that when something goes wrong, you can get off. On I-95, in many sections, you cannot. There is no shoulder worth the name. The exits are miles apart. The parallel routes cannot absorb the overflow. A single jackknife truck, a single storm, a single accident across the lanes, and the most important highway in America becomes a box with no exit and no timeline for release. That is the paradox the country's other deadly roads do not share. The Dalton Highway will kill you with isolation. The desert roads of the Mojave will kill you with emptiness. Interstate 95 kills you with company. 200,000 other vehicles surrounding you at all times, each one piloted by a stranger whose skill and judgment and sobriety and attentiveness you are betting your life on, whether you have thought about it that way or not. Every second you spend on this road, you are participating in an act of mass trust with 250,000 people you have never met. And here are the national averages you are trusting them against. 1 in 4 fatal crashes involves a drunk driver. 1 in 3 involves excessive speed. 1 in 10 involves a distracted driver looking at a phone. On a highway this dense, those percentages are not abstractions. They are the car in the next lane. They are 300 feet ahead of you right now. The trucks finish the equation. I-95 is one of the busiest freight corridors in the Western Hemisphere. Tractor trailers hauling everything the East Coast consumes move up and down this road around the clock. A loaded semi weighs 80,000 pounds. The car beside it weighs 4,000. In a collision between those two objects at highway speed, the outcome is decided before either driver touches the brake. And on I-95, the trucks and the passenger cars share the same lanes at the same speed through the same aging infrastructure with the same 2 short merge ramps and the same driver who just looked down at a text message for 2 seconds. 2 seconds at 70 miles an hour is 205 feet of highway, traveled with nobody steering. The length of a city block in the space of a single notification. In a corridor carrying 300,000 vehicles, someone somewhere on the road is inside those 2 seconds right now. The math never stops running. Come back now to the morning, any morning. A Tuesday, a Thursday, nothing remarkable about it. You are on I-95 somewhere in the corridor, somewhere between the Florida heat and the Connecticut cold. The traffic is thick, the speed is high. The road is doing what it always does. You have driven this stretch before. You will drive it again. You know the exits by feel. You know which lane clears past the interchange. You know this road the way you know your own street. And that is exactly the problem. Because the most dangerous thing about Interstate 95 is not the bridges or the trucks or the ice or the rain or the speed differential or the 300,000 strangers around you. It is the feeling in your chest right now, the one telling you that you know this road, that you have done this before, that nothing about a place this ordinary and this familiar could possibly be the thing that kills you. A road that looks dangerous keeps you sharp. A road that looks like your commute lets you soften. It lets you drift. It lets you check the phone. It lets you follow too close and merge too late and believe that the boring miles will stay boring because they always have before. And most of the time they do. That is the cruelest part. This road rewards your complacency 1,000 times before it punishes it once. Every safe commute, every uneventful trip, every time you made it home in the same 20 minutes teaches you the same lesson. That I-95 is just a highway, that the warnings are for other people, that you can push the speed and shorten the gap and glance at the screen, and the road will hold you the way it held you yesterday and the day before. And then one morning, it does not hold. The bridge fails, or the truck jackknifes, or the rain comes down like a wall, or the driver behind you blinks at the wrong second, and your lane becomes their lane, and the physics do not negotiate, and the commute you have made 500 times without thinking becomes the one you do not finish. Nearly 2,000 miles, 15 states, more than 60 years, more dead than wars with monuments in the capital, and not a single mile of it that looks like anything other than an ordinary American highway, which is exactly what it is, and exactly why it keeps collecting. The road with the monument is the one you visit once. The road without one is the one you drive every day. And the one you drive every day is the one that gets you. Not with cliffs or ice or desert emptiness, with the complete and ordinary absence of any reason to be afraid. That is what Interstate 95 has always understood about the people on it. You are not scared of this road. You have never been scared of this road. And that, more than the bridges, more than the trucks, more than the speed or the storms, is the single most dangerous thing about driving it. There is another American place that uses that same trust against you. A body of water so calm and so blue and so close to the city that 6 million people a year walk straight into it, believing the worst thing out here is a sunburn. That story is on screen right now. Watch that one next.